Good morning everyone. My name is Surya Teja, as you can see, dealing the CSAT part of high impact revision. So, to just give you a quick background of who I am an engineer, a computer science engineer from IIT Indore, and then I did my MBA from IIM Bangalore. And this is my UPSC journey. I think this is more important. Even in this, what's more important is I failed prelims twice. So I know how to fail. And I also know what not to do so that you have to clear the exam. And then I interviewed for CSE twice. And I also got a rank of 66 in IFS 22 exam. And in both civil services and forest exam, one of my optionals was mathematics. So I've been living with maths since a long time. So I thought I should share my knowledge in terms of CSAT with you. These are the exams that I've cleared in the past, if that establishes any credibility. But I just wanted to focus on this part where I failed prelims twice. So I know what it feels, how it feels in the exam hall, what it takes to clear the exam, and what you should not be doing in the exam so as not to fail. Okay? How many of you have written prelims at least once? Okay, you've written. And the rest of you have not written prelims before, right? And okay, so what is your level of comfort with prelims, with CSAT? So, how many of you are engineers? Okay. How many of you have studied math in the recent past, like 3-4 years? Okay. How many of you have completely hated mathematics in your school? Okay. All right. So, you just don't like mathematics. Well, I like mathematics. So, by the end of this program, I'm sure you'll be on my side. And I hope that you don't pull me onto your side. Okay. So, fine. Okay, so this high impact revision program is a well designed program of which I'm a part this year. It's because I like the way this program is designed. Right. It's a very fast revision program that's properly scheduled in into different sections. So that's exactly what I wanted to do with CSAT also. So as you've seen the schedule earlier, we've divided this into 4 sections, in which the first couple of sections will be working on the quant or mathematical part of this paper, CSAT. And later we'll be working on other topics like reasoning and puzzles and other things like series, coding, encoding, and all of that. So first of all, we'll start off with easier topics, topics which are very basic in terms of mathematical concepts. So in case if you have any issues with the basics of mathematics, what I want you to do is go back to your basic textbooks, like be it your 10th standard books or even your 9th, 8th class books, and go through certain basics, like what is a natural number, what's a prime number. We'll certainly be doing all of that in the class, but still, it'll be good if you can go through all these topics once, so that it will be easier for you in the class. Since this is a high impact revision thing, we'll be going at a slightly faster pace than usual. We'll not be going into the very basics of topics, but we'll try to do basics. But more importantly, our focus will be on PYQs, most repeated themes, how to get to the answer even if we don't know anything about the question, and finally, how to clear the mark of 66 marks, which is 33%. Okay. So this is one of the topics that we'll be doing today, sums and averages. But before we do sums and averages, can someone tell me what is an average? Yeah, I know all of you are answering, but I don't get it. Average is nothing but the sum of observations divided by the number of observations. Correct? So if you take observations, if you take any sample of let's say 100 things, you take the sum of all these 100 things and you divide it with 100, you get the average. So here one of the components is sum, and we'll also be looking at sums. So when it comes to sums, there are some basic foundational sums that we've all learned in our school. For example, what is the sum of first n natural numbers? Correct. So sum of first n natural numbers is n into n plus 1 by 2. Then what is the sum of first n squares? N squares. N into okay. Divided by? Okay, and sum of first n cubes? N square times? Divided by? Okay. Some of you weren't sure about this third one. Okay, so these are certain basic sums. The first n natural numbers, first n squares and first n cubes. Okay, so before we get into this topic, I want you to understand what this CSAT paper is all about. Since many of you have not written the exam already, CSAT is the second paper of UPSC Prelims, and that will be of how many hours? 2 hours. And how many questions do we have in CSAT? How many? 80. And how many marks per question? 1. And what's the amount of negative marks? How much? 1. Okay. And how much do you need to clear the exam? 33%. Okay, so it's 33% or 66. And what are the components in this paper? Comprehension and comprehension. Second one is what? Quant or math, whatever name you use it. And you also have reasoning questions. Okay? So we'll be first doing this quant or math topics. Then we'll go into reasoning. And comprehension we'll try to do every day. Not today, but we'll try to do every day. Okay? So how many of you are reading newspapers every day? Okay. Which one? Which newspaper? Looks like girls are reading newspaper more than the boys. What's up, boys? Why are you not reading newspapers? Time lena. So when you read something, when you read newspapers, what you do is you go through what is there and you comprehend what is written, right? So what I want you to do is from now on, whenever you read something, try to read it quickly, as fast as you can, so that will improve your reading speeds. And once your reading speeds are improved, then we'll see how you can comprehend what is given and if you can make some quick 4 to 5 points out of it. Because that's exactly what is tested in reading comprehensions. You read something, then there are questions. These questions have to be answered based on your understanding of what you've read. So let's practice speed reading for the moment. And by the time we are done with this program, I'm sure all of you will be able to make sense out of what you've read and also answer questions based on these paragraphs, whatever you've read. Okay, so that's one thing that I want all of you to do. I asked you to do something else earlier. What was that? Yes, basics. So you have to go back to your basics once. Basics like what is multiplication. Some of you may have not done maths in like many years earlier. So just go back to basics. Do calculations, multiplications, additions. Look at basic formulae that you have seen in your 10th standard or 9th or 8th based on your level of comfort. Okay. So let's get into sums and averages for now. So what we'll do is, this is how I want to do this thing. I'll take PYQs, one question, and using that question, we'll try to look at some concept. Okay, so that way we'll be doing both concepts and also we'll be doing PYQs. And if you observe, there are many themes that are repeated in PYQs. In fact, there are questions that are repeated verbatim. So let's look at PYQs, and using PYQs, we will look at concepts as well. Okay. So what we'll do is, I'm sure all of you have pen and paper. So we'll look at a question and we'll take a minute or two to solve a question, and then we'll look at the solution. All right. So in the next slide, I'll be opening a question and I want all of you to solve it. Okay. Is that okay, or do you want to do it in a different way? That's fine. Okay. Boys in the back. Sure. So this is our first question. So let's take a minute. Let's take 2 minutes and solve it, because okay, before we get into this, how many minutes do you have per question in CSAT? 1 point? Yes. So you have 1.5 minutes. Right. So how many questions do we have? 80 questions. And how many minutes do we have? 120, right? So you have 1.5 minutes per question. So let's try to practice this thing. Solving any question in 1.5 minutes. Okay. Some questions might take longer, but that's fine. On an average, we should be taking 1.5 minutes per question. How many seconds is that? 1.5? 90, right? How many seconds in a minute? 60. All of you are sure about that? Okay, so we have 90 seconds for each question. So that's exactly what we'll try to do. But initially, let's take a little longer, maybe 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes. But as we progress into the program, we'll try to bring that down to 1.5 minutes. So let's solve this question. Let's take 2 minutes for this question. Okay, so that's 3 minutes actually, but that's okay. So how many of you could solve the question? Okay. Who gave me the answer of 42? You've given me, okay. So what happened to the rest of us? The answer is actually 42. So here, if you carefully read the question, he's asking us about the average weight of the woman. He gave us the average weight of the woman and is asking the average weight of boys. So you do not have to worry about the rest of these people, which is girls, men. You don't have to worry about it. You just have to look at the weight of all women, right? Okay, so what was the formula for average? Sum by number of observations. Correct? Those who couldn't solve. Ante kada? Sum by number of observations. Then how do we get sum? Sum equal to average into number of observations. So that's what we've done here. Weight of all women is equal to the average times the number. The number of women given is 4. Similarly, weight of all boys is, that's also this much, right? Because the total weight of 4 women and 6 boys is the same. Now you want the average weight, so you have 6 boys. So you took 252 divided by 6, which is 42. Correct? Did any one of you not understand this? Because that's fine. See, I want to tell you something. This program should not be unidirectional. I want it to be both ways. I want you to interact. And do not look at me like someone who's coming and teaching things, but look at me like a fellow aspirant, okay? So we'll try to solve things together. If you do not understand something, just let me know. We'll do the question as many times as we can. And at the end, I want all of us to be on the same page. Okay? So if you do not understand anything, just let me know. So this was one question. Now let's look at the other questions. Okay, so this is another question. Please solve it. Someone solved it? No. What happened? Both are correct. Yes, so both are correct. This looks like a very big question, right? But if you are patient enough, you will easily get 2.5 marks. So there are 4 oranges plus 6 mangoes and 8 apples. Again, here, what I want you to notice here is, you see how I've taken the variables O, M, A. So whenever you have many objects in the question, like oranges, mangoes, apples, try to take names of variables like O, M, A instead of taking X, Y, Z. Because when you take X, Y, Z, what happens is you keep solving the question and at some point you'll forget what X is, what Y is and what Z is. And many of us do the mistake in the final, this part, where we do not understand what X, Y, Z is. And in the exam hall, we are already under the pressure. And then we commit a mistake. So always write variables which are very, very clear. So here we have taken 4O plus 6M plus 8A equals to twice 1 orange, 2 mangoes and 5 apples. Then you rearrange and you get to this equation. And this equation is exactly what's being said in the second statement. So second statement is true. And in the first statement, he asked us 3 oranges, 5 mangoes, 9 apples. Then again 4 oranges, 6 mangoes and 8 apples. And if you rearrange them, you will again get this equation. So the first one is also true and the answer is C. Okay. So initially, in the first glance, you might think this is a very lengthy question. But if you notice, if you do the calculation, it will be a very simple one. Okay. So here, another learning is, and I want all of you to note this down, we'll be taking learnings after each question, right? Prati question nunchi we'll see what we can understand and what we can implement in the exam. So I want you to note down this point. One is taking variables, which are very clear. And one is not being intimidated by looking at the size of the question. Okay, I want you to note this down in your books. Are you noting it down? Yes, you can note down the solution also. And here I'm writing the test, the year number, the year in which it appeared and the question number. Okay. So this is this image I've cropped from the question paper that's available on the UPSC website. So even if you want to go back to this question, you can go to this number, this year's question paper and that question number and you'll get the question. And please note down these solutions also. Mere exam ke liye mundu just go through these solutions. Okay. And also write learning separately. Okay. Just let me know if anyone is still noting down the solution. Option C. Naresh, very good. Okay, let's move to the next question. So before you solve this question, I want you to look at this pattern of questioning. Okay, this is one pattern of questions that's being asked repeatedly. There are at least 3 to 4 questions every year which are asked in this manner. What they do is, first there's a question where they are giving a statement. There's a statement like this, and then there's a question here. Okay? And there are two statements, statement 1 and statement 2. Okay? And these are the options. What is this? What is the question saying? Which one of the following is correct in respect of the above question and the statements? Okay, and the first one, just look at the options for now. Forget about this question in particular. The question can be answered by using one of the statements alone, but cannot be answered using other statement alone. What does this mean? Can anyone tell me what this means?
Statement can be used to answer.
And it also says it cannot be answered using the other statement alone, which means you can answer the question using statement 1 alone, but not statement 2 alone. Or you can answer the question using statement 2 alone, but not statement 1 alone. Okay? So that is option 1. Option A. Then the second option is it can be answered using either statement alone. What does this mean? It means you can answer it using either statement 1 or using statement 2. Okay? ఈ రెండిట్లో ఏ ఒక్క స్టేట్మెంట్ ఇచ్చినా you can answer the question. Then what is the third option saying? It can be answered using both the statements together, but cannot be answered using either statement alone. Both are necessary. So you need both statements 1 and 2 to solve the question. But if either of them is not given, you cannot solve the question. Okay, that's what this third option means. Then what's the fourth option? It cannot be answered even by using both the statements. Which means even if these two statements are given, you cannot arrive at an answer for this question. So what you have to do is wrap your head around these options. Because in the exam, it's easy to get confused among these options. Okay? So what you have to do is just remember these options. When you see a question of this sort in the paper, just notice that your options are similar and completely focus on this question rather than grappling with those statements. Okay? Here the challenge is not the question itself, but understanding options, identifying which one is the right option. And here, if you look at this question, there are so many components. There's some basic information, there's one question, then there are 2 statements, and then there are 4 options. So how many do we have? We have total 8 components out of this question. But if you can understand these options now itself, 4 of them are removed. You don't have to worry about 4 of them. You can simply focus on these 4 of them. Okay? So just keep noticing these questions and try to remember these statements. Again, let's look at these statements once again so that we'll remember it. The first one is the question can be answered using one of the statements alone, but cannot be answered using other statement alone. It could be anything. It could be statement 1 alone or 2 alone. It's not necessarily 1 or necessarily 2. Then the second one is using either statement alone. And the third one is using both the statements, but not using either statement. And the third one is cannot be answered using even both the statements. Okay, so we'll be looking at similar questions again, and then I will not be showing these options, and then you should be able to recollect these options. Okay, so now you can solve this question. What happened? You solved it already? Even this is something that I'm not noticing. Okay, so a certain amount was distributed among X, Y, and Z. The question is who received the least amount? X received 4/5. X received 4/5 of Y and Z together. I can write it like this, right? 5x is equal to 4 times of y plus z, and y received 2/7 of what x and z received together. So 7 times of y equals 2 times of x plus z. So what is the answer for this one? C or D? C. How? So what are the equations? 5x equals 4 y plus 4z, then 7y equals 2x. 7, if you take 2z this side, you get minus 2z. Okay. And how many of you remember solving equations? How many of you don't remember solving equations? Asal guttuleda. What did you do for your graduation? Huh? What was your graduation? BSc. Pass ayana? Pass ayana kada? Certificate lekapothe allow cheyaru exam. Okay, so you have to solve these equations. How much did we get for x? X is so y got the least share. How did we get to that? So you have these equations are given, and I just manipulated the second equation, and I got this equation, which is 4x equals 14y minus 4z, and we had 4y plus 4z, and then we added these two. So 4z got cancelled. This is 9x and this is 18y. So I got x equals 2y. Then I took x equals 2y and substituted in one of these equations. That gave me this 10y equals 4y plus 4z. And then I got Z also in Y terms. Then I took the ratio of 3 of them. X is 2y, Y is Y, and Z is how much? 3y by 2. So I can cancel Y in all these terms, and I'll multiply with 2, that becomes 4 times. Here it was 1, so 2 times 3, and the least one among them is 2, which is Y. So Y got the least share, and we could solve this question using both the statements together. Okay, so what is the option? Which option is the right one? C, right? So C is the right option here. Okay, so let's look at the next question. Okay, solve this question. So first of all, what were the options for this question? Nobody asked me. Same, Dada. BSc Maths, same, na? So options are the same. And what's the answer that you arrived at? C. Let's see if C is right. Yes, so C is right. Both the statements are needed. Here it's given P plus Q plus R is 50, and the price of article Q is 16. And so that becomes P plus R is 34. Okay. Now what does the statement 1 say? Not more than R. P is not more than R. How do we write it mathematically? P less than or equal to R. Okay, not more than will be less than or equal to. Okay, that's fine. Less than or equal to, right, sir? Similarly, second statement says R is not more than P. So R becomes less than or equal to P. And if you combine these two, what does it become? P equals R. And we already know P plus R is 34. So P equals R equals 17. So using both the statements, you can answer the question. Now I'll tell you the reason why I included this question. What many people did was, the cost of P is not more than that of R until they took P less than R. And for the second statement, that they took R less than P. And they said both the statements cannot be consistent with each other. So they took option D. That's exactly what the examiner wants you to do, to make such silly mistakes. So I want to note this down. This is one of the mistakes that we usually do. It is not more than, not more. Whenever not more than is one very commonly repeated wording in questions in the last couple of years. So whenever there is not more than, you always have to get an equal sign. If you are not writing equal sign, then you are bound to make mistakes like these. So note this down, that whenever there is not more than, you have to use an equal sign. Less than or equal to, not just less than. Okay? Please note it down. I want you to make a list of mistakes that I will be talking about in the class. And also when you are solving mock tests, or even if you are solving CSAT later on, you should be making a list of those mistakes, and right before the exam, go through those mistakes so that you don't repeat it in the exam. Because you have negative scores in this exam, one mistake avoided is how many marks? 2.5 plus 2.5 divided by 3. Because you are not making mistake, you are not getting negative, and you'll also be getting a positive score. How much is that 2.5 times 2.5 by 3? Approximately 3.3. So 3.3 marks you'll easily get if you're avoiding one mistake. Okay. So make a list of these mistakes. That's what I do whenever I work on any mathematical component of any exam. I make a list of mistakes, and just before the exam, look at those lists and avoid making those mistakes in the exam. Even for mathematics optional, that's what I did. That's what many of my friends did. We have a list of mistakes and we try to avoid those mistakes, and that itself will put you way ahead of the competition. Okay? I hope you've noted this mistake down, this commonly made mistake. We'll skip certain questions because I just want to get to the good questions. Yeah, let's solve this question. This is a question based on sum of numbers. It can be classified into other section also, but let's solve it here today. Aipinda? How many of you don't understand Telugu at all? Is there someone like that? I'm sorry, I've been using Telugu. You don't understand Telugu? You understand? You understand? Okay, so let's look at this question. What's the sum of all 4-digit numbers less than 2000 formed by the digits 1, 2, 3, 4, where none of the digits repeat? What answer did you get? 7998 or 8028? How did you get to that answer? Correct. So I want you to see something. See, here he's saying numbers less than 2000. So what is the first digit? It's always 1, brother. Correct? So it's always 1. And again he's saying none of the digits are repeated. So what is the maximum number? 1432. 4 in your third digit, 3 and 2. Again, what is the minimum? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So if you can make a quick calculation, what is the, he's asking sum of all 4-digit numbers. How many numbers are possible? 3 factorial 6. 3 factorial, why 3 factorial? Okay, I don't understand Telugu. Fine, Prathamesh, we'll keep it in English. Okay, so why 3 factorial? Because we have 3 different objects in 3 different places. So that means we have 3 factorial ways to arrange these 3 different objects in 3 different places. And what is 3 factorial? 6. We'll look at these permutations, combinations later. But for now, 3 factorial ways of arranging numbers. So what is the maximum sum? 6 times 1432. And what's the minimum sum? 6 times 1234. So if you can do basic multiplications, despite some people not being able to solve equations after BSc Mathematics. So if you can make basic multiplications, you'll see that the minimum sum is 7404 and the maximum sum is 8592. So you can rule out these 2 options. And if you actually want to get to the answer, this you can do when you have in your shortened time and you want to improve your accuracy. But since you've already done the calculation, the answer is 7998. The answer is 7998. And how do you arrive at this answer? So this is one way to do it. You see that in each place you will get 2, 3 and 4. You'll get 2, 3 and 4 twice. Can you list down the numbers that these 6 numbers? One is 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4, 3. Next 1, 3, 2, 4. 1, 3, 4, 2. 1, 4, 2, 3. First write 2, 3. Go in an ascending order. 1, 4, 3, 2. So if you notice here, in every digits place, 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2. How many times do we get 4? 2 times. 3, 2. Same here. 3, 2, 4. Here also same. 2 twice, 3 twice, 4 twice. So every time you are getting twice. So just take that sum. 2 plus 3 plus 4 into 2. That's 18. And if you have to add these 6 numbers, that's 1800 plus 180 plus 18. And you have 6,000. Okay, sorry. All of them have 1 in the thousands place. So you have 6,000, sum of 6,000 anyway. All you have to do is calculate the sum of these numbers. Correct? So you got 1998 here. That added to 6,000 becomes 7,998. You want me to repeat this? Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4, 3. 1, 3, 2, 4. 1, 3, 4, 2. 1, 4, 2, 3. And 1, 4, 1, 4, 3, 2. So you notice that 2, 3, 4 are occurring twice. And in which place are they occurring? This is units digit. This is tens digit. This is hundreds. This is thousands. And everywhere in thousands place we have only 1. And we have 6 such numbers. So first of all, let's just write one of these numbers. You have 1, 2, 3, 4. How can we split this? 1000 plus 200 plus 30 plus 4. Right? So similarly, you can split all the other numbers. And everywhere you are going to have 1000 plus something plus something plus something. Okay? So if you take 6 numbers, you have 1000 6 times. How many times will you have 200? 2 times. Correct? See, here you have 2 times. 200. Similarly, you have 1000 6 times. Then you have 200 2 times. How many times do you have 300? 2 times. How many times do you have 400? Same thing with 20, 30, 40. Correct? 20, 30 and 40. Then the same thing with 2, 3, 4. Correct? So 2 plus 3 plus 4 is a common thing across all of them. And what is 2 plus 3 plus 4? How much is 2 plus 3 plus 4? 9. And 9 times we have 2 everywhere. So 9 times 2 is 18. So let's just take 18 common from each of them here. So you get 18 times 100 plus 18 times into 10 plus 18. Correct? So if you take 18 common here, 18 times 100 plus 10 plus 1. How much is that? How much is it? 111. 111. and you can easily make a multiplication of 18 times 111. Okay? And you just have to add it to what have I left here? 6,000. And that will come down to 7,998. Okay? Now this is just one of the ways to do it, but I'm sure all of you have already done it using brute force. Correct? What is brute force? Brute force and just doing it without applying any trick or tool or any method or formula. So all of you have identified this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 3, 2, 4 and so on. You just have to add them. But the thing is, in such calculations what we do, we make a addition mistake. Okay? And then we keep trying to figure out which one is the right answer. So do not make mistakes when you are making such calculations. Or if you think you are making such mistakes, try to identify some pattern like this one, where the probability of making an error is lesser. Okay? So I just wanted to show you that you can make an error in such questions and it's best avoided. So I wanted to note down this error also, making addition, subtraction, multiplication errors in basic calculations. Please note that now. Telegram group add
group share
group lo share చేయి నీకు లింక్ పంపిస్తా
ఇంకోటి ఏంటంటే రెడ్ కలర్ డిస్ప్లే
ఓకే hold on ముచ్చట్లు పెడతాం మనం కూడా బట్ లేటర్ ఆన్ Okay, let's look at the next question. How many of you are tired of math already? You're tired already? You're tired? Okay, let's pause for a moment. Okay, Naresh 7998, right answer. P17 Naresh, very good. Okay, so we'll just do something in the next couple of minutes. But meanwhile, let's just solve this one question. Okay, just try to solve it. Okay, so what is your sequence here? How many Z do you have? You have 2Z. How many Y? 3 Ys, 4X, 5W and so on and up till A. So that is your sequence. 2, 3, 4, 5 and what will be the last one? How many letters in the alphabet, English alphabet? 26. So last one will be 27. And the alphabet order is, the 26th one is the first one, which is Z. And the 25th is Y, 24th is Z and so on till A. Right? So he's asking what is the middle term of the sequence. So what is the sum of the sequence? First of all, how do you find the middle term of a sequence? what is the middle term in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? What's the middle term in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6? Okay, so there's no middle term, but you need odd terms to have a middle term. Okay, so here you have odd terms because you can calculate the sum of s. What is the sum of s? How do you find it? You add 1 here, and that becomes sum of s 27 natural numbers. 27 natural number sum is 27 times 28 divided by 2. And since you've added 1 here, we'll remove that 1. Okay, so that becomes 387. And 380, how do you find the middle term out of 387? What did we do for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? It is 5 plus 1 by 2, which is third term. Similarly, we do 387 plus 1 divided by 2. Okay? Did I make a mistake here? This is what? 378. Okay, so 378 divided by 2. 378 plus, here you are not having neat 378 plus 1 will become an odd number, right? You don't have it neatly because your terms are repeated. Z is repeated, W is repeated. So we'll try to find what that letter is by approximating. So first of all, we get the middle term as 187. Okay, 187th term is your middle term. Now, if you can look at this formula n times n plus 1 by 2, you have to get that number somewhere around 187. Because if you are taking sum from 2, 3, 4, 5 up to a certain number, your sum has to be somewhere around 187. Okay? So what is approximately 187? You take 19, you take 19 for n. That becomes 19 times 20 by 2, which is 190. Okay? So if you are taking 19th term, you will get the sum to be 190, which is very close to 187. So your middle term should be this 19th letter, but 19th letter from reverse. Z, since we have started with Z, it has to be 19th letter from reverse. Now how do you find that 19th letter from reverse? Why did you get 28 minus that? Because, see, your first term was Z and it was repeated twice, and it is the 26th letter of the alphabet. Similarly for Y, it's repeated thrice and it's 25th letter of your alphabet. And for X, you have 4 and it's the 24th. And for each of them, if you observe, this sum is 28. Okay? So each of them is 28, 28, 28 and so on. So now you want to find the 19th term, which means here you have 19 and you have to get this number. So you take 28 minus 19, which is 9. And what's the 9th letter of the alphabet? That's I. So B, I is your answer. What have we done here? We took a sequence 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, which is nothing but your natural numbers. And then we've taken the sum of it. Okay? And sum divided by 2 will give you the middle term. And your middle term should be around 187. Okay? And to get to 187, you've seen that 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus so on up to 19 will give you 190. So 187th term should be the 19th term from backwards. And how do you find the term backwards? We have seen that the number given for each letter and its actual number in the sequence of alphabet, they both add up to 28. So you have 19th letter from backwards, which will become 28 minus 19, 9th term from the front. And 9th term from the front is I. Is it clear? Or do you want me to go through it again? If it's not clear, we'll do it again. Okay, I understand that you have a group. You have a Telegram group in which Praveen had shared a link. Can you all join that group? Even the online people? There's a link that's shared. Please join that group. Yes, 189th term is the middle term, Rohit. The sum of first, yes. The link is shared is shared by Praveen in one of your in the group that you are a part of. So please join that, Rohit. Satish doesn't get how the sum equals 28. So I'll just tell you again why the sum is 28. See, what is Z is the 26th letter of the alphabet. Okay? And here, first, how many times do we have Z? 2 times. Okay? And how many times do we have Y? 3 times. And Y is what? 25th letter of your alphabet. And now, what do you want to find? The 19th letter from this direction. 19th letter from Z, Y, X, W. So if you keep writing like this, you want the 19th term. Okay? Or let's just say the sum is not 28, okay? Let's just say you have Z, Y, X, and so on. If you take the reverse order, this is first term from the back. This is the second term from the back. This is third, and so on. But in the actual alphabetical order, this is 26, this is 25, 24, and so on. Okay, so if you take the sum of 1 and 26, you're getting 27. Similarly, you get 27 for each of them. But the thing is here, it's not starting from 1 and we have 2. So we are adding 1 to each of them. And that becomes 28. And since you want 19th number from here, that will be what? Let's say that will be some nth term from this end. But since this plus 1 is always 28, it should be 19 plus n equals 28. That means n equals 9. So you want 9th letter from the start of the alphabet. That means that becomes I. So that's how you get 28 and you take the 9th letter from this start. Okay, so you've joined the group. Let's just do a quiz on this group. Okay, it's a very short quiz. We'll do bigger quizzes later on. Is everyone ready? Everyone online? Is everyone ready? Okay, if you're not a part of the group, we'll do it later. This is not that important anyway. We'll figure that out tomorrow. But for those of you who are a part of the group, I've shared a quiz. Please start that quiz. Can everyone see the quiz? No, you don't click start quiz, but I've already done that. Can everyone see the quiz? No? Okay, there are many people joining. Fine, we'll do it after some time. Let's just look at other questions for now. So here we've been solving sums and averages, and there are so many questions based on sums and averages in the past question papers. Okay. Again, these are other questions. Let's look at other topics because we'll get back to these questions. Let's just solve this one question in averages and move to the next topic. So it looks like most of you have solved it. How do we do this? What is the sum of marks of all 100 students? How much is it? 4,000. And one entry was wrong, which was supposed to be 53 but misread as 83. So what would be the correct sum? 4,000 minus 30, but how is it 30? Minus 83 plus 53. So here you make a subtraction of 30, that becomes how much? 3970. What's the average? Divided by 100, and that comes to 39.7. But if you notice here, what is the difference initially the average was 40. Now the average is 39.7. You had to make a difference of 30, and how many students are there? 100. So how much is this? 0.3. So if you subtract 0.3 from 40, that becomes your corrected average. Okay? So if there is any mistake in reading one of the entries, what you do is you calculate the difference between the correct entry and the different entry. You either add it or subtract it. Here, why did we subtract it? Because the actual entry was 83. Sorry, the actual entry was 53, but we misread it as 83. So you have to subtract. But if it was reverse, if it was actually 83, but if it was misread as 53, the sum has to increase, right? So you have to add. And how much are you adding? The difference between these two correct and wrong entries divided by the number of entries or number of people. And that if you subtract from the average, you will get the corrected average. Clear? It's just that there are two entries. One of them was supposed to be the entry, but we misread it to be something else. What we do is we take the difference and we either add it or subtract it based on which one is higher. And we just don't add it, but we take the average of this difference also. And only that number you either add it or subtract it from the average to get the actual average. Okay? People in the back, you getting this? Okay? Okay. So let's just open this group once. I want to start a quiz. Okay, I'm unable to start this. We'll look at it later then. Okay. So what are the topics for today? What was mentioned in the schedule? Anyone notice that? Hmm. So these are all the questions that you have in sums and averages. Let's get to ratio and proportion. Can someone tell me what ratio is? Ratio is nothing but if you have, let's say, 8, you have 8 parts of, let's say, milk in 10 parts of water. What is the ratio of milk to water here? 4:5. First you start with 8 to 10 and that becomes 4:5. Correct? Now if I say there are 2 mixtures of milk and water which are proportionate. Okay? Proportionate means milk to water ratio is same in both the mixtures M1 and M2. Okay? What was the first mixture? 4 times 5, 4 by 5, right? So that is the ratio of milk to water in our first mixture. So in the second mixture also the ratio has to be same. Okay? So this is called proportion. The mixture, the ratios of mixtures in both M1 and M2, milk to water, would be the same. This can also be written as, if let's say 1 ratio A is to B is proportional to C is to D, that's nothing but, this is nothing but A by B equals C by D. And when 2 fractions are equal, you can cross multiply numerators and denominators. Correct? So AD equals BC. And how are A and D located here? A and D are the extremes, B and C are in the center. So AD equals BC. So if I write 4 times 5 is proportional to x times 25, how will you find x? So 4 times 25 equals 5x. And how much is x? 20. Okay? So that is proportion. It's a very simple concept and most of you must have solved this in your 6th or 7th standard. Okay, so not many questions from ratio and proportion are asked in the last couple of years. And even if I try to dig into the older papers, I did not find too many questions. So we'll just look at the concept and a couple of questions. Since that does not seem to be very important from the UPSC perspective. Yeah. Hold on. So before we get into this question, what I want you to notice is, you see this paper. If you look at this paper, this is one sheet of the paper. Okay? And in this, if you look at questions 48, 49, 50, all of them are too text heavy. And the first glance at these questions, you can be intimidated. You might feel this is too much to solve and you'll easily skip all of these questions thinking, I'll do it at the end. But this question, which is question based on ratio, is the 49th question here. It's a very simple question, but it's situated between all these text. So what you have to do is, once you get the paper, you have to identify what easy questions are. You should develop that art of identifying easy questions, locating them, solving them, and marking them correct, taking 2.5 marks and moving on to the next question. So even if you're given such long statements, do not feel intimidated. Do not think that you can't solve it. Be calm. Try to identify which of these could be an easy question and solve it. Okay. So now let's solve this 49th question. It's a question based on ratios. You've solved it. So again, what are the options for this question? What would be the options? Just like we saw in the earlier slides, it is can be solved using either statement alone but not the other. Can be solved using either of the statements alone. Can be solved using both the statements. Cannot be solved using even both the statements. So now what is the question here? What is the age of? What's the age of? Manisha. Okay, so Manisha is 24 years younger than her mother. 5 years later, the ages of Manisha and her mother will be in the ratio 3:5. So if we just look at this statement, this will not give us any answer, right? Manisha could be just 1 year while her mother is 25, or Manisha could be 2 while mother is 26. The difference is 24 in both the cases, but you cannot clearly establish what the ages are. So statement 1 alone is not enough. Now using the second statement, 5 years later the ages of Manisha and her mother will be in the ratio 3:5. So how should we name these variables, ages of Manisha and her mother? What have you taken? X and Y, yeah? I would take daughter and mother, D and M. So there's no way I'll get confused later on. D is always daughter. Oh, okay. Riya Yavara. Manisha Yavara. Okay, so now what is the first statement saying? Manisha is 25 years younger than her mother. So M minus D is 24. And 5 years later, what will their ages be? D plus 5 and M plus 5. And what is the ratio of them? D plus 5 times, is to M plus 5 is what? 3:5. And what is the formula that we talked about for proportion? The product of those two extremes will be product of these two terms. Right? So, if you take product of these two, what will that be? 5D plus 25 equals 3M plus 15. And you get 5D minus 3M. Sorry, let's take 3M minus 5D equals 10. And we have M minus D equals 24. Let's multiply that with, how much should we multiply that, this equation? Because we want to solve these two equations to get M and D. Into 5 or into 3, either of them is fine. Correct? So let's just do into 5. 5M minus 5D equals 120. And then you subtract the first equation from the second one. You get 2M equals 110. Okay? And then you get M equals 55. And then you get D. What? 55 minus 24. How much is that? 31. Okay? But did we need to solve all of this calculation? Was it necessary? It wasn't, right? So once you have two equations and you know that you have two unknowns, that's enough to tell you that you'll get answers for M and D. Which means you can directly straight away go for option C. You don't have to worry about solving for M and D. You can directly go for option C. So that way you can save your time instead of getting into tedious calculations. Okay, let's just look at this question. Okay, let's look at the solution. What I want you to notice is, in questions like these, where ratios are given, or in certain questions like percentages, 100 is the easiest number. Always take 100, and calculating percentage of 100 is nothing but the percentage. Okay? So here, if we took 100 as the maximum marks per paper, what is 60% mark of any paper? 60, right? So what is the total score? He said total score is 60%. But what is total? How many papers do we have? We have 6 papers. And each paper, the maximum score is 100. So you have a total score of 600. This is just like how your any school exam happens, right? You have 6 papers. You have 100 marks per paper. So the total is 600. And for that, he said 60% mark. And what is 60% mark of 600? 360. Okay? So, your total is 360 out of 600. Now, he has given the ratio of marks of all 6 papers. So, let's just assume them to be 5x, 6x, 7x and 8x and 9x and 10x. Okay? So the sum of all of them is nothing but 360, our total marks. And what is 5x plus 6x up to 10x? 45x. 45x is equal to 360. So how much is x? X is nothing but 360 divided by 45. Are you getting it or are you tired? Tired? Not tired. So 360 by 45 is what? 9 times 5, 9 times 40 and then 5 times 8. So x is 8. And you substitute x in each of them, you get these scores for each of the paper. And what was our 60% mark? 60. And the question is, how many papers the score was less than 60%? How many? 56, 48, 40. 3 papers. Okay? So in 3 papers, we have scores less than 60% of the mark. So the answer is B. So here the takeaway is taking 100. All of this is fine. All of this, I think most of you will be able to solve it. But the most important thing is taking 100. Whenever you have percentages, try to look for some easy number. Okay, here 100 was the easiest number. Easiest, what do I mean by easiest is, which makes calculations easy. Here, once I took 100, 60% has become 60, total has become 600, 60% of 600 was 360. All of this was easy for calculation, right? So taking 100 made calculations easy here. And then I could solve these ratios and easily get these scores in all the 6 papers. And all I had to do was check the number of papers which had scored less than 60. This sum is a calculation intensive sum. But what we tried to do is we took 100 and made things easier for ourselves. So whenever you have such questions where calculations could get intensive, go for numbers like 100. Sometimes 1000 could be a better choice. Sometimes it could be some other number. But based on the question, you have to pick a number that makes calculations easier. But mostly, it will either be 100 or 1000. But whenever you are in doubt, always go for 100. Pick 100, take the percentage, get the number, make calculations, and you can be assured that you are not going to make any mistakes. Okay? So here that is a key takeaway, taking 100. So remember, 100 is the number that will guide you to your answer in such questions, particularly ratios and proportions. Okay? Alright, so in the group I've shared a link for a quiz. Can you all open it once? Can you see the quiz link? Once you click start this quiz, it will take you to the bot. Solve questions. There are 5 questions in it. Click start the quiz. You solved the quiz? Yes. You got all the answers right? Okay. So let's go to next topic, because ratio and proportion are not many questions. Okay, let's just solve this question. Let's just solve this one question from ratio and proportion. Get back to your notebooks. Keep your phone away, please. I hope all of you are noting down solutions and formulas and mistakes and common tricks that can be used, like the 100 thing that we just discussed about. Keep noting them down, because that's the revision material that you'll have for your exam. Okay, very good, Lalit, Rohit, Naresh, you solved the question. So this is a pretty basic question. I'm sure many of you must have solved it. Even if you haven't, that's fine. So here, what's the question asking? The question is asking the ratio of basic pay of both the people. So let's just take them to be A and B. Now allowances of first person are nothing but 65% of their basic pay. So A plus 0.65A, and for the second one it's 80%. So B plus 0.8 times B. So that becomes 1.65 here and 1.8. And if you take B to the other side, it becomes A by B. This is exactly what they have asked us. And here you take 1.8 divided by 1.65. How do you remove this decimal point? You add zeros. So here you take a 0. Since here you have 2 numbers after point, here also you have 2. You can straight away remove this decimal point, and it becomes 180 divided by 165. And if you simplify this ratio, it becomes 12:11. So that's it. This is a very simple question, but somehow this is 2016 paper. And if you notice, questions have not been this simple in the recent past. See, you look at, this is 2022 question. It's a simple ratio question, but they try to complicate it by putting it in that text, making it statement-based question. So you have to watch out for this complexity. They just want to make things complex. See, what is this? What is prelims? Prelims is nothing but an exam of elimination. Correct? So, how many applicants do we have for civil services every year? Right? How many of them write the exam actually? 5 to 6 lakhs. You have 5 to 6 lakhs people. How many vacancies do we have? Approximately 1,000. How many people write mains? 10,000. Let's just take 10,000. From 5.6 lakhs to 10,000, you have to filter people. So let's put ourselves in the shoes of UPSC. what would we do if we have to design the examination of prelims? We'll make it an elimination based exam. Now, what components do I have in prelims? I have GS and CSAT. Now, they tried to make CSAT also a counting paper, but after a lot of debate and discussion, they made it a qualifying paper. So I can either eliminate them in GS or CSAT. Now what I'll do is, instead of eliminating everyone in GS, I'll try to shift that burden to CSAT. I'll eliminate some people in CSAT. And now things will become easier in GS. Okay? I'll eliminate the rest of them in GS and pick 10,000 people, and then they will fight for those 1,000 vacancies. So UPSC is doing nothing but the game of elimination. And unfortunately, in the last 3 to 4 years, CSAT has become a bigger eliminator than GS. If you notice, the cutoffs of GS also kept coming down. There's a downward decreasing trend. And number of people not qualifying CSAT has seen an upward trend. So CSAT is something that has killed the dreams of becoming an IAS for many people. Okay? And now, if you notice the trend of CSAT also, easier questions like ratio, proportion, sums, averages, these sort of questions came in 2016, 15, 17, even up till 19, even 20. But 21 onwards, till even the 24 exam, CSAT paper has become very complicated. Well, it's nothing to be scared about. But what they're doing is, they're moving away from conventional topics like ratios or averages, or even the basics like blood relations and things like that. Right? They're focusing more on number systems, permutations and combinations, probability. And in the last 3 years, number systems alone had 20 to 25 questions. So 25 questions came from number systems alone. And then the remaining questions from probability and PNC were somewhere around 10 to 15. So how many questions in total? 30 to 40 you have from these two chapters. And these two chapters were not asked in the past. Like 21, earlier than 21, number of questions from these chapters was very low. But somehow they picked up these two chapters and they kept asking questions and made things complicated. Okay? But again, UPSC is known to be a uncertain public service commission. Right? So we don't know what sort of questions will be asked in 25 or 26. So we'll try to focus on basics certainly, which is what we're doing today, averages and ratios and things like that. But we'll also focus on number systems. We'll try to do 2 to 3 sessions on number systems, and similarly 2 to 3 sessions on PNC and probability. Okay? So we'll try to focus on these two heavily, while also doing topics like ratios, averages, percentages, profit and loss, time, distance, speed, all of that. And what is one other component of CSAT? Reading comprehension. How many of you are comfortable with reading comprehension already? So you're comfortable with reading comprehension. Okay. So what happens is, some of us may not be comfortable with reading comprehension. It's because of multiple reasons. It could be either because our reading speeds could not be better, or it could be because comprehending and answering the question may be an issue for us, or it could be that we are making errors in judgment under the exam pressure, right? But what's nice about this reading comprehension is we don't have more than 25 questions. We have questions somewhere around 25 to 30, which means the remaining 50 to 55 is from quant or math or reasoning. And that is very much doable if you can identify easy areas and also avoid mistakes. Now, what is the qualifying mark for CSAT? 66 point, okay. Let's just say 66. Now, let's just aim at a little higher number, 68. Okay, that is the bare minimum we have to get. Now, how many questions do we have to get right for this? How many? Somewhere around 28. Let's just say 30. Sorry, 30. Okay, 28 or 30. Let's just say 30. So now all you have to do is get 30 questions right. Now, so obviously, we'll not be attempting only 30 questions. We'll attempt a higher number, let's say 45. Then the number of questions you have to get right will be little higher. Let's say that is 35. I'm not making calculations now, but let's say it's 35. So now you see what is the accuracy ratio here? 35 questions out of 45 questions should be your accuracy. So what you have to do is, whenever you're solving any question or any mock test, try to attempt 45 questions in 2 hours. That should be your first goal. Okay? So that requires what? Solving speed, not making errors, understanding question. Okay? So you have to ensure that you're doing 45 questions in 2 hours. And then the next thing is getting 35 questions right. Initially, you may not get 35 right, you may get 25 or 30. But finally, you have to get to this number. Okay? That will ensure that you clear that mark of 66. Okay? Or let's just say 68. Okay? So that will put you in the qualifying list. But what I want all of you to do is not aim for such tiny numbers like 68, but go for a bigger number, 100. Okay? Now, why am I saying this? Because in this exam, each question is 2.5 marks. Okay? And each negative will be 2.5 by 3. And those put together will be somewhere around 3.3. Now, from 68 or 70 to 100, what is the difference? 30 marks, right? And 30 divided by 3.3 is not even 10, it's somewhere around 9 questions. So, I'm pretty sure that each and every one of you can get past those 9 questions and get those extra 30 marks and be very safe with respect to CSAT. And then you'll have to worry only about GS. And that also, if you can work very smartly, you will be writing mains in 2025. Okay? So that is the plan for us. What is the plan? Trying to get easy questions, solving them, solving some 40 to 50 questions, getting as many right as you can. Even if you can get 50 out of 50 right, that will work great. Okay? So that is the high impact that I want out of this program. That is my high impact. That is what I want from each and every one of you. Not just 1 or 2 people, but all of us. Right? So that's how I've designed the program as well. As you've seen, we've tried to identify easy topics today. Identifying easy questions out of all the tough questions. Doing them very quickly. Being smart in solving. Not getting into dirty calculations, but quickly getting to the answer. Moreover, we'll also be looking at how we can use options to get to the answer. That's exactly what you must be doing in GS also, right? In GS also, you'll be looking at options and try to get to the answer. See, in objective paper, the thing is, in mains, what do? They give you a question and they give you 2 sheets or 3 sheets of paper and you have to fill these sheets of paper. That way, you have to fill some 50 sheets of paper. You just don't know what the answer is, right? And everyone could have a different answer and there's no single right answer. But in objective paper, you have A, B, C, D. One of these is right answer and it is staring right at you. Correct? So all you have to do is identify this B and get 2 marks in GS or 2.5 in CSAT. Now how are you getting to this B? That does not matter. Okay? Once you get to the answer, you mark it, you move on to the next question. So let's master this art of identifying the right answer rather than becoming mathematical geniuses. That's not the goal. We'll certainly do basics of mathematics and we'll look at how we should solve questions. But our primary goal will be to getting to the right answer and getting the score of 66. 66 or 100? What do we want? 100. So aim high, aim for 100 and we'll try to work in that direction in the next couple of weeks. Alright, so we'll do the last topic for today, that's percentages. Again, percentages is, what's the percentage? If you're getting 56 out of 100 in an exam, that's what? 56%. What is the qualifying score for CSAT? How much percent? 33%. So what is this equivalent to? 33% out of how many marks? 200 marks. So how are you calculating this? 33 divided by 100 times 200. Okay? So that becomes 66. So whenever there is a percentage, you divide it by 100 and you multiply it with the total. Here the total was 200, the percentage x was 33 and that multiplication would get you to 66. Okay, so that is the concept of percentages. You may already know what percentage is. Okay. Now let's look at some questions in percentages. Let's do this question. This is a CSAT 2024 question. Okay, some of you have solved it, even online folks have solved it. See, I think the calculation must have been simple. The problem is simple in fact, but this is a very error-prone area. Okay, here again, again take easier numbers. Here the number is not given. It could be anything, right? So what I did was I took 100. It should actually be 400, but instead of 400, they took it to be 25. Okay, the difference is how much? 375. Now he's asking percentage change. Whenever they ask you percentage change, what would you do? Change divided by, what should be the denominator? Original number or the new number? It should be the original number, right? Even in profit and loss, whenever we are calculating profit percent, what would you do? Profit divided by cost price, not the selling price. Whenever percentage change is asked, take the change as your numerator and always go for original number in your denominator, not the new number. Okay. So that's why we went with 400 here, because that should be our original number. And that times 100 will give us 93.75. So this is one possible error, taking the wrong denominator. Here if we took, instead of 400 as denominator, if we took 375 divided by 25 times 100, that would also give us some percentage. Fortunately, that's not a part of options. But if it were a part of options, we would have gone with the wrong answer. So do not make that mistake. And another way to avoid calculation errors in this question is by taking numbers like 100. I'm sure some of you have taken x, then you said initially it should have been 4x, but he took it to be x by 4, and then you calculated the difference between 4x minus x by 4. Did you solve it like this? That will become a very tedious calculation, right? 4 times 4 minus all of that. Instead, I simply took 100 and it should have been 400. It was taken as 25 and the calculation is much simpler here. So always go for easier numbers like 100. 100 or 1000. These are the numbers that will make calculations easier for you. Okay? So that is what I wanted you to notice from this question. Again, do not solve this question. Again, it's a very simple question. Or let's just solve this question once. And these are all 2024 questions. Keep noticing the year in which these questions were asked. Okay. Let's look at the solution. Again, 100 is the easiest number. In percentages, what does cent mean? Cent means 100. Okay. So whenever you have any question on percentages, always go for 100. 100 will make things easier for you. And this question, although it's a percentage based question, but it's better solved using Venn diagrams. Okay. So we'll look at Venn diagrams later again in detail, but for now, 80% of the students passed in English. Let this be English. 70% students passed in Hindi. 80. Okay. We have taken the total number of students to be 100. Okay. And out of this, number of students who passed English is 80%. 80% of 100 is what? 80. Similarly, for Hindi, how much is it? 70%. So here it is 70, which means this circle will have 70 people. This circle will have 80 people. Okay. And 15% failed in both the subjects. First of all, what is 15%? 15. Okay. And they failed in both the subjects means they will be in this area. Correct? This is their area. The people who failed both the subjects. They did not pass any subject. That is 15 people. Now he is asking what is the percentage of students who failed in only one subject. So if this is 15 and total is 100, what should be the number in these two circles? 100 minus 100 minus 15, that is 85. Correct? So 85 people should fit into these two circles, out of which one circle will be 80, other would be 70. So let us say the number of people who belong to both the circles is X. Then 85 is equal to 80 plus 70 minus X. This is the formula for Venn diagram. We'll look at it in detail later on. But for now, let's just take this formula. And how much do we get for X? we get 65, correct? Are you getting it? Okay, some of you did not get it. Don't worry, this is a Venn diagram problem. We'll look at it in detail in the after 4 to 5 sessions. But for now, let's just assume that this is going to be 65. Then this would be 15 and this would be 5. And he's asking what is the percentage of students who failed in only one subject, which means they passed in only one subject, which should be 15 plus 5. 20. And how much is 20 as a percent of total number of students? 100. So, 20%. Answer is B. So even if you did not get this part of Venn diagram, that's fine. Don't worry about it for now. But what's more important here is again taking the number of 100. 100 is the number that will put you in the list of people writing names. Okay? 100 marks, 100 for percentages. Okay? Keep 100 in your mind and that will make things easier for you. Okay? Again, this is one another calculation error prone area. Okay, let's solve this question. Come on, let's solve this one question. We started 5 minutes late. Okay, this is more of a pie chart question than a percentage question. But anyway, we'll solve it. Okay, so pie chart has a total of 360 degrees. Okay, how many degrees does a pie chart have? What is a pie chart first of all? You take a circle, you divide it into different areas representing different items. Okay, and what is this angle? Total angle? 360 degrees. And based on the share of each of these items, you divide that 360 degrees into different components and you represent that in the pie chart. If let's say this is 45 degrees, what percent is this item of the total? 45 divided by 360 into 100. Okay. So, this is how pie charts are represented. Now, the question is saying B is 90, C is 50, D is 45 degrees, E is 75 degrees. And he's asking for A's percentage. Now, what is the sum of B, C, D and E? That's 260. Okay. And the remaining part is A. How much is A then? 360 minus 260, that becomes 100. Now he's asking the percentage of 100. So 100 divided by 360 into 100, that is a percentage. Okay, and fortunately he's asking us fractions and not getting into decimals, so calculation is easier. You take off zeros. This is 4 nines and this is 4 25, and that comes out to be 250 divided by 9. 250 divided by 9 is your answer. Okay. Again, we'll do pie charts also later on, but you just remember the fact that every pie chart has 360 degrees and each component will be nothing but the number of degrees given to that component divided by 360 into 100. That will be the percentage of that component. Okay, and I think these were the 3 topics for today, right? Was there anything that we missed? Okay, we haven't missed anything, I think. No, I won't be sharing the slides. Whatever you note down is going to be your material. I might share something on the group, but these slides won't be shared. Okay. So I think that's it for today. We'll meet tomorrow and we'll work on other topics. For the next couple of sessions, we'll be working on topics which are a little mathematical in nature. And then we'll be moving to topics like number systems, permutations and combinations. That will be the major chunk which I want to focus upon. And then we can do other components like reasoning and comprehension. Okay, thank you. Thank you. And I encourage you to meet me after the class or interact with me, because if you want to ask or know about anything with respect to the exam, I'll always be available. And I believe that conversations are those things that give you enough ideas for your growth. So please strike conversations with me and I'll be happy to help. Alright, thank you.